Welcome to Can't Stop the Pop, the podcast where we, that's me, Matty,
and me, Craig,
do a deep dive on a song from the 90s or noughties.
So, what song are we doing this week?
Well, it's my choice for this season, and we are doing About You Now by the Sugababes. So what are your immediate thoughts, Craig?
Well, I always wondered what was going to be the tipping point where we couldn't work together anymore. And I didn't really think it would be this song, but I think this might be it. It is a song that the Sugababes recorded, a very good song that the Sugababes recorded. But before we get into it, who are the Sugababes? And you need to be specific with this one. And why are we talking about this song in particular?
Wow. We're not going to fall out. We just have different opinions. So the Sugababes are one of the most successful UK girl bands ever. There has been 4 different lineups of the Sugababes, and they have reunited in the past decade or so, but heavily within the past 4 years, I'd say, in their original format. And we are not going to spend this episode pitting, I will say upfront, this is not an episode in which that we're going to pit the group's lineups together against each other. It's not what this is about. I did a bit of that in our season 2 retrospective. We are talking about this song with the 3rd lineup because it's one of my favorite pop songs ever. I have said before, and it's a bit of a bold statement, I know, but truly, I think this is probably the greatest UK girl band single ever. I think someone asked me on Instagram the other day, someone said, name a perfect pop song. And I could have said, Can't Get You Out of My Head. I could have said, Frozen. I could have said, Baby One More Time. And my gut feeling was this. Because I just love it. And I'm going to gush and I'm going to speak how much I adore it and what it meant to me back when it was released. But what are your thoughts? Because I know we have different opinions about this song.
So, well, let's get one thing, just gloss over. It was written by Kathy Dennis and Dr. Luke. So we'll just gloss over that. But I actually think that is quite relevant to what I think about it. I don't mean to think that I don't like About You Now, because I really like it as a pop song. And I think what was happening with the Sugababes at the time made this a really important song for them. Because so Mel joined late 2005, but she stepped in to finish off the Taller in More Ways campaign, so it wasn't really her album. And then they released Overloaded, the singles collection, in 2006, which again, most of that wasn't her material. So this, and of course, the Sugababes and Girls Aloud had been number 1 earlier that year in 2007 with their cover of Walk This Way. But this really was, after almost 2 years in the group, Mel's first proper album. Well, it was her first proper album campaign, the first launch. And so I think as a relaunch, they probably couldn't have asked for a better song. It's very... So the production is very late noughties, but it's the sort of production. It's not distinctively the Sugababes. I remember first hearing it when it first came on, and it opens with Amel's vocals. And of course, Amel's not fully established yet with a necessarily the most distinctive, recognizable voice. So you're like, this song's really interesting. This song's really catchy. Who is singing it? And then about 30 seconds in, you get Keisha comes in, like, oh, it's the Sugababes. And that alone, I think, made it, for the context, was really good. I think that, like, structurally, it's great. And I love that it does that. And it's got really solid hooks, and it uses the same sort of hooks throughout at the end of the verses, so you get a really clear sense. It's one of those songs I feel like you know exactly where it's going. I don't think there are any surprises in About You Now, but it's one of those songs that just melodically goes where you expect it to, and I think that's fine. I think there's something really satisfying about hearing a song and you go, I can see it's going to go up a bit here, and then it's going to go into this chorus, and then it's going to dial back a bit. I love all of those things. I think make it a very, very, very good pop song.
But
well, if I think about About You Now in terms of the Sugababes' #1 singles, because spoilers, this did go to #1. It was their biggest hit. I think About You Now could have been recorded by anyone, and it would have been a big hit. It is a #1 hit that the Sugababes recorded, but unlike Freak Like Me and Round Round and Hole in the Head, which even I would say is quite forgotten, those to me are Sugababes songs, Sugababes #1 songs. Whereas About You Now, I don't feel quite so. I don't feel it's got quite so much identity. So that's one of the things I think about it, and I can already feel the anger.
I'm not angry because you're not the only person that has had this opinion, but I've given the same rebuttal to it every time. In that I completely and utterly disagree. I don't think that this song would have been successful if it hadn't have been layered by a 3-person girl group. It's not a solo. This is not a melodic song. This is a song which is. Let's just talk about the song before I gush about how amazing I loved Sugababes 3.0. I loved everything about this when it came out. This came out at a point in my life in which that I had literally gone to university, I think a week before this came out. And this was like my song of like going there.
Yeah.
As a song, it's layered so incredibly well in that it is a very simple, structured pop song. Yes, the production is very of its time, but I also think that it's slightly more left field in the way that the synth sounds are used. It's not rocky, but there's guitars within there. It's got a drive, but it's not a dance track. This is an anthemic track in the way that it's interesting. At the same time, they also around this period did a cover of the Arctic Monkeys' I Bet You Look Good on the Dance Floor as a Sugababes version. And this gives me exactly the same vibe of that, of young people coming together, bouncing and jumping to a beat. It has that from start to finish. And every single time there's a chorus, there is a new layer of harmony. Now, some people are really unkind to later iterations of the Sugababes in terms of the way that they would distribute the harmonies in comparison to the original trio, who, yes, in their reunions are just masterclass in terms of beautiful arrangements of harmonies. But the harmonies are stunning here. And the vast majority of live performances that they did of this at the time as well are really good. And I love that every single time you get a little bit more of all three of the girls. And then by the time you hit that final chorus, so distinctive about Keisha's ad-libs over the top. It honestly gives me goosebumps. It's so anthemic and so incredible as a song. I understand what you're saying is that because they didn't write it, and they also wrote pretty much the rest of this album, because they didn't write it, maybe it doesn't have the same time to them. But in the process of them recording it, I know that they had to really fight to make it sound like a Sugababes song. And I think that they got that across. They got that across in the ad-libs. They got that across in the vocal distribution. There is a reason why this song, there is only one member of the Sugababes currently performing with the original lineup that was in the group at this time. There is a reason, more than just it was a big hit, that this resonates so well and that they're still doing it. I have no doubt that Keisha is immensely proud of how incredibly popular and successful this song was. It was like the birth of the downloads era, and we'll get to that later. But my God, seeing them now, even though it's just Keisha with Mutti and Siobhan performing this song, was a reaction like I've rarely felt at a gig before. When I saw them at the O2 a few months ago, it was unreal. And you don't get that from a song which is not incredibly well written. Like, it's still cool. It's still got edge. And that middle 8 section where Heidi comes in with her incredibly underrated vocals. Heidi Range is an amazing vocalist. I'm just putting it out there. I love Heidi, just for Heidi. But like, when she does that really beautiful, sultry vocal in the bridge, and the backing track, the production goes so distorted, it's almost that you can't really make out what the beat is anymore. I love that. I don't think it's basic. I don't think it could have been sung by someone else. I think this would not have sounded anything like this if this had been sung by Katy Perry, or this had been sung by young Ariana, or this had been sung by any of the sort of pop girlies of the day. I think it belonged to the Sugababes, and I think there's a reason why they had it. And also, I'm sorry, but Kathy Dennis has written. I mentioned multiple songs before, which that she'd also written as potentially the perfect pop songs. She just knows how to write a good hook. She really does.
I mean, I do agree. I don't disagree with, like, in terms of the quality of the song. I don't disagree at all. I love the production. I love that fuzzy quality where it's almost like it's been recorded off a radio. That's really like that. I love that slightly retro sound. I love what they did. They sing the song exceptionally well, and I do think, I don't know who wrote which bit of the song, but I do think the chorus, it's not a simple chorus, but it's a memorable chorus. It's one that you can sing after you've had a few cheeky vodkas. It's still in your mind.
It's like a chant. It's a chant.
That to me is the same sort of quality that Kathy Dennis brought to the S Club hits, where they're not just a couple of words repeated over and over again, which is sort of what Dr. Luke went on to do. I felt that he did very much dial back on the lyrical content and just like a catchphrase over and over again. So I really appreciate what the song is and how it's performed and what it became. And absolutely that they can't untangle themselves from this song, because it was so it was huge. It was just absolutely huge in a way that I don't think any other Sugababes song had been or ever was again.
No, it's definitely the peak. It's their peak of their career, and as I say, it's really difficult to talk about the song without talking about the lineup changes, and I really hate that about the history of the Sugababes, because it's fascinating, but also people see it in such a negative light. And just for the record, like, I really hate the lineup comparisons that people do online now. We've all got opinions. We've all got things that we like. Just don't be horrible and shady about it. There's just no point. And Sugababes 3.0, from the moment that Amel joined, there was a really great documentary series that it's Pop Underrated, who we know as well, did every Sugababes album. And what's really fascinating to me is the moment in which that Amel joined the group. I had nothing but respect for her to come into a ridiculously established group at that point.
Yeah.
And they just hit the ground running. Yes, it was a bit of a machine at that point, because they had to finish the album campaign. They had to contractually get our greatest hits. They had to record a new album. They did a charity single with Girls Loud. It was insane, the run that Amel was thrown into.
Yeah.
But they just had such a bounce and an energy as a pop group again, in a way that maybe, because we know everything that was going on behind the scenes with Mutia, maybe they had lost slightly within the Tour in More Ways campaign. She said herself she was ready to leave the group. She was want to having a baby. Like it wasn't the same. Whereas the energy and the professionalism, I'd say, that Amel brought of being like, no, we're an up tempo like pop group, and it wasn't that she made it sexy. It's just that it gave it a bit of like an injection of energy. And I loved that about this song, because this felt like after 2 years of picking up the pieces of previous campaigns, she was able to do this electro rock number. And of course, she gets both verses. So it feels in many ways like her song. And I just love it. I really, really think it's just so incredibly produced. And I remember sometimes we get really into the ins and outs of like the nitty gritty of the song and stuff like that. No, but I just like talking about the nostalgia of what it did. And I remember this album in particular. I remember getting the Change album. I had the song downloaded because this was the days of downloads, and then I would then buy the physical CD album. And I remember playing this album when I was feeling so homesick and like really unsure about, like, I was in a new city and I was living in student halls, and I used to play it in the kitchen when I was making dinner, and just it never failed to just fill me with joy. And it just always takes me back to being 18 now when I'm 36, a long time later. But yeah, it's got so many happy memories for me. And I think that it's the definition of a perfect pop song. I love it.
Oh,
Any more on the song before we talk about the video?
No, let's talk about the video, because I will continue my thoughts about it.
I mean, yes, we'll talk that. Let's talk about the video. Okay. So give us a brief.
I mean, okay, so there's two things going on. There's this narrative of a man and a woman, this sort of, I guess, estranged couple, texting each other on these very of their time Nokia phones in London, and there's a lot of I think that aesthetic is quite cool. He's running across the city, and he's like running over trucks and jumping over railings, and it's really, I think that side of it is really good. But then in the middle of that, you've got the Sugababes, not any part of this narrative whatsoever, and it is literally just like, here's a bench, Amel, here's some stairs, do what you're going to do on the stairs, and she's sort of grinding on the rail. Then it's like, Heidi, here's a big column, and she's just stroking the column, and then there's the three of them together. And I think it's a real shame that the Sugababes aren't part of the narrative, because it feels like they didn't quite know how to marry the two together, so they just get the Sugababes to sort of dance around a bit, and it's weird. It's a weird video.
I agree with the video, but I think, that's me being critical now of the Sugababes history, is that I don't think they were ever a videos act. Ever. I don't particularly think. People say that they had some iconic video moments, coming up in a lift and push the button. What do you remember about that video, other than them getting with the guys in the lift? What do you remember about Round Round, other than they're performing Round Round in the round? Like Freak Like Me, They're Vampires? They have very, very undercooked concepts in a way that an act like the Spice Girls or Girls Aloud or something never would. They would go sometimes full throttle. Like, I'm thinking like your Long Hot Summers and your like Sexy No Nos. They go in like balls to the wall. We're gonna go with this concept, and that's why I know they have different lineups. But an act like the Sugababes is never in their performances going to reference the visuals from a video. does that make sense?
No,
Whereas
that does make sense. Yeah.
Whereas an act like Girls Aloud, when we saw them on the tour last year, they very cleverly, it was the first tour they'd ever done it, every single song referenced the video in terms of the visual that they did, which I loved so much. Whereas I can't remember any of Sugababes are not like that. Like doing Hole in the Head. What are they going to do when they did In the Middle? They're going to just give us sparkly dresses and dance around. Like a video like that, I sometimes feel like they intentionally were like, we are not going to do dance routines. We are going to keep this simple. But what is weird about the video for me is the yellow styling, because it's concrete blocks, but yet they look like it's weird because the styling in the other two videos for this album is really good.
Really strong. And I was going to say that. The really Change strong. Video, really strong.
Beautiful.
Whereas this one like, just it's like they decided on that concept. They decided on the visual for the rest of the campaign after this video.
Like Denial is such a great video, underrated song as well. Love Denial so much. I think it's such a great song. Change in Denial, the visuals are so high art in a way that's like, and really beautiful videos, whereas this feels like it feels very understated, which is probably the whole intention, because it was very Amel focused. I just find it weird that someone goes, we're going to take you to the most boring looking concrete locations that are probably really cold and put you in very little yellow. And it, as I say, we could do a whole deep dive into the Sugababes history. Maybe we will one day. Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge. Maybe. But yeah, I've no problem critiquing the video. Don't worry. I'm never going to sit here and say this is a video that sits alongside, like Sound of the Underground or like Sail Be There or even like Whole Again. I think about simple concepts for videos that work. This doesn't. But I would argue that a lot of the Sugababes videos didn't work. As in, they're not strong. They were successful songs based purely on the merit of the songwriting, and also the fact that despite multiple lineup changes at this time, there was still such a goodwill for them as a group. Like, truly. Like, this was their biggest hit. Sorry, I know I'm going on different tangents now, but but like, off the back of this album being so successful, they almost released another album and then got the infamous Boots campaign with girls, and like they were a hot property still. They were a viable brand, and that's what made the song so successful as well. It wasn't the video. No one's remembering the video.
So for me, I mean, let's just talk about the chart stats, because
let's talk about the charts,
and then I'll get back onto. So the song it peaked at number 1. Interestingly, so it had a staggered release. It had a digital release 1 week, and then it had a physical release the following week. But I think it was a remix. The Spencer and Hill remix was released midweek, the week before the digital release, and it was downloaded so much that the song entered at number 35 and then climbed to number 1 the following week, and it was number 1 for 4 weeks. It was the 6th best-selling single of 2007, so it sold 345,000 copies. 99th best-selling single of 2008, it sold another 105,000 copies, but it is now by far their biggest-selling single. Current chart units on 1.41 million. It's huge. It's huge in terms of their career.
Yeah, it's why they still do it. It's why they do it despite the fact. Are they going to perform Girls? No. Are they going to perform Get Sexy or like About a Girl? Like, I wish they would, but
I mean,
they're going to perform About You Now, like forever.
And they have to. And I suppose oh my gosh, you're gonna cringe at this. I think of About You Now, about that they can't not perform it because it was so big. But I think of it like 5, 6, 7, 8 for Steps. Steps now can't not perform it because it's so big. But I don't think the size of the size of the hit that About You Now was necessarily indicative of the group's popularity at that point. Because if you look at the album sales, the album campaign, the album trajectory, none of the other singles made the top 10. And yes, we were in the digital era, but you can say that Girls Aloud, on the other hand, are sustaining and actually increasing their sales. I think this was a distraction. No one's going to turn around after this song go, Sugababes aren't successful anymore. But I think if you took this hit out of the equation, this would have been quite a significant downturn in their commercial success. And it was. The Change album sold about 300,000 less than Taller in More Ways. It was a big drop in sales. And so I suppose...
But weren't albums in general selling less at that time?
I suppose where I look at the Sugababes were always really, really consistent with their album sales. Okay, take the first album out of the equation. But once you got Angels with Dirty Faces, 3, and Taller in More Ways, they all sold roughly around the same. They were nudging on 1 million each. And then you get Change, which is 500,000. I'm not saying it wasn't as successful. It was. But a lot of it was off the back of this song. And I think it just slightly deflected and slightly obscured something perhaps that was happening more broadly with the group. Now
I do think that was happening broadly with sales in general in terms of albums. But I hear you. I do hear you.
And I would say that I think the label learned the wrong lessons from About You Now. And I'm not criticizing About You Now because I know you love it, and I'm not criticizing it. But I don't think they would have recorded a song like Girls or Get Sexy if it wasn't for About You Now, because I think the record label suddenly were like, oh, hang on, the lineup doesn't matter, the hits matter, and there's a logic to that. But suddenly I felt like they started buying in these to try and make them be crossover hits in the same way. And About You Now didn't have that gimmick. About You Now was just successful because it was a well-written, well-performed song and it connected with people. But I look back at it now and I think maybe this was the point where the label thought, yeah, the group can change. It's the songs that matter. And that wasn't the case.
I mean, I hear some of what you're saying, and I do agree. I mean, we're not talking about a different thing, but like, God, there's so much to talk about Girls and Catfights and Spotlights, which, for the record, this is going to come as a left field thing, but Catfights and Spotlights is an incredible album. That is an incredible pop album. It is so well produced and well written, and the producers and the people that they wrote with are great. Girls as a lead single, there are 2 versions of this. One is not on streaming, but the other one is just on YouTube. And I think they've said many times that there was originally a plan to do this version, which is far more in line with the rest of the album in that it's quite electronic and left field. And it uses Here Come the Girls as a sample. And it's so good. It is genuinely up there with probably some of the best stuff they did. And I think it would have been a really big hit. But because of the Boots advert, they repackaged the whole song to be more in line with what the original one sounded like as a cover.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, my point being is that there is a lot that went on in the Sugababes in that next year, 2, 3 years, a lot of which was label interference. When I think even though this was written by other people, I do think they must have been incredibly proud of how successful it was. I mean, this was nominated for a Brit Award. But yeah, there's so much to unpack, and we, as I say, we could do a big deep dive into the history of it. But yes.
Okay, so I've two more things to ask you about this song. Just okay. Firstly, tell me about Miranda Cosgrove.
Oh my God, Craig! I didn't even know that this version existed. And I hate this. I hate this because I feel like you're trying to prove a point, and it just does nothing.
No,
it proves it proves my point. Miranda Cosgrove has covered this song, and it is probably the bigger version of this song in the States. It's what people in the States would know this song as. Whereas to me, it sounds like the most generic, rubbish, sort of teeny pop version. There's no life in the song. It's slightly in a different key, lifted. It's lifeless. It's absolutely lifeless. Whereas you were like, it's great. This proves my point of why anyone could sing this song.
I don't I suppose it proves my point in as much as, but thinking out just as a song, I listen to it and I don't think this is Miranda Cosgrove singing a Sugababes song. I think this is Miranda Cosgrove singing About You Now. That's the only difference. I don't, in the way that I just, that's how I feel about it. I don't feel it. I don't actively listen to that version. So I won't anger you further, but can we just talk a little bit, just very briefly, about Hollyoaks?
Oh, honestly, I'd forgotten that this existed. And then when you brought it back into my world, I was like, who greenlit this? Like, oh, we should message Sean Kitchener and he'll know. Sean will know.
We so should know. So basically, long-term character Max Cunningham killed off, and his wife in the show at the funeral stands up to give a speech, and she breaks down in tears, and then she starts singing a cappella the live lounge version of About You Now, which the Sugababes recorded for the Radio 1 Live Lounge, and she records it, and I told you I hate stuff like this. I hate it when characters stand up in soaps specifically and start singing, because it just makes me cringe. But then it sort of then segues into the Sugababes version, and
really poorly.
But it caused the song to re-enter the top 40. It really weird. But that's what I mean. It was that they never had a hit on that level before, where it could be used like that. Can you imagine this character standing up and singing,
round,
holding round, hole in the head, like I just
overload.
It really was. The scale of this as a hit was just on another level. And yeah, I think in some it was they really needed this song, and I that's what I would say. They needed a song like this to draw a line under the Muttier era and move into this new era. And I think this they needed a hit like this, and they got it, and they delivered it. And I'm not criticizing it for them or for that.
I just love this Hollyoaks clip. It's going round and round in my head. Round. It's just it. Oh God, everything about it. People's reactions, watching this woman just like start randomly go. It was so easy that night.
I know.
Like, it's just no. Who said yes to this?
Oh my goodness.
Oh God. Okay. I'm gonna lose myself. Okay. Well, that was my choice. That was my choice for season 3. We are done. Fantastic. If you want to listen to the Sugababes About You Now, or About You Now acoustic version live lounge as featured in Hollyoaks, you can, which is also a great version. You can find it on streaming. And where can they find us, Craig?
We've gone. Can't Stop the Pop has a website where there are over 500 reviews, which you can find at can'tstopthepop.com.
We are also on social media. I am Matt_Atkins9 on my personal account on Instagram, and you can find us on TikTok at Can't Stop the Pop Podcast, where we do reaction videos, we do performance videos, and we do this, but in 60-second clips.
It's chaos. I am at Can't Stop_the_pop on Instagram and TikTok. We are also at Can't Stop the Pop on YouTube because we have video content, and if you're watching it, then you'll know that, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to see us.
Hello. Do you subscribe to our channels? Get in touch. Let us know what you think of the song, what you think of the show, what you think of the Sugababes, and please leave us a review, but only a good one, wherever you get your podcast from.
Thank you so much for listening, and join us next time for more
Can't Stop the Pop.